So now we want to move on to talk about the factor shifting the LM curve. So again, we want to describe what is the LM curve. We say that for the LM curve, it is about the relationship between the R and Y when the asset market is in equilibrium. Given that the asset market equilibrium can be boiled down to the money market equilibrium, therefore, in here we are talking about the factor that causes the money market equilibrium changes, and we want to see how will that causes the shifting of the LM curve. So in here we say that every point of the LM curve represents a relationship between the real interest rate R and output when the money market is in equilibrium. Then when we are talking about the factor shifting the LM curve, we want to see how does the real interest rate got changed when the money market faces shock. And those shocks will affect the money market equilibrium by affecting the nominal money supply, by affecting the price level, and also by affecting the real money demand. And then based on that, we will see how does the equilibrium got changed and how will that affect the real interest rate. So then when we want to explore how the LM curve shifts, we want to focus on how the real interest rate got changed, again given the same level of the output. So now again I want to illustrate this point using graphs. So to identify the factors that affecting the shifting of the LM curve, we want to focus on the shocks of type, the changes of the nominal money supply, changes in the price, and changes in the real money demand, and we then want to see how does it affect the shifting of the LM curve. So to begin with, we want to look at the impact of changes in the nominal money supply on the shifting of the LM curve. So then what we know is that when the nominal money supply increases, then it will shift the real money supply curve to the right. Because of that, it will cause a fall in the real interest rate given the same Y. So then we know that the LM curve needs to shift to the right. So how about when there is a changes in the P, then how will that affect the LM curve shifting? It turned out when the price got increases, it will causes the real money supply to fall. Then in the graph, we will see that the real money supply curve needs to shift to the left. Given that we know the real interest rate should increase, holding all the other things being equal. But then when the prices got increased, it not only affects the real money supply, but it also affects the nominal money demand. So what we know is that when the price increases, the nominal money demand got increases. Given that the increase of the nominal money demand is proportional to the increase of the price, therefore the real money demand curve stays. Because of that, from the supply side perspective, we know that the R should increase. So holding all the other things being equal, we know that the LM curve needs to shift to the right. However, from the demand side of the story, we know that given that the real demand curve remains the same, therefore the LM curve stays. Therefore, combining these two effects, we know that the LM curve needs to shift to the left. So then how does the factor affecting the real money demand affect the shifting of the LM curve? Let's first take a look at the changes in the wealth. When the wealth got increased, then the real money demand got increased. Other than that, when the return of the monetary asset got increased, the real demand for money will also increase. So then because of that, both of these cases will cause a right shift of the money demand curve. Then because of that, we know, holding all the other things being equal, we know the R is higher. So then given one level of the output, we know that the R is higher, than imply that the LM curve needs to shift to the left. Therefore, in here we conclude that when there is an increase in wealth or increase in the return of the monetary assets, both of them will cause the LM curve to shift to the left. So then what if when there is an increase in the income? Well, given that when the current income got higher, then the real demand for money got increased. And for this particular change, the income got higher, the real money demand got higher because people need more money for more transaction. So then because of that, holding all the other things being equal, the real interest rate will get higher. However, under this case, we say it implies that the LM curve doesn't shift at all, even though the money market equilibrium somehow got changed. That is because this is the changes in the Y. This is because when we perturbing the Y and then see how does it affect the R, that is how we derive the LM curve. Therefore, when the Y increases causes the R to increases, it helps us derive the positive relationship between the Y and R for the LM curve, which indicates the relationship of the R and Y when the money market is in equilibrium. So then how about when the R increases? When the return of the non-monetary assets got higher, then the real demand for money got false. Again, for this case, it is about moving along the real demand curve, because when we draw the real demand curve, it is about the relationship between the R and the real money demand, because the vertical axis in the graph is R and the horizontal axis in the graph is about the real money demand. So then the changes in the R, which causes the decrease in the real money demand, is about moving the real demand curve. Because of that, the curve doesn't shift, so then it implies that the LM curve needs to stay given this perspective. How about there is an increase in the expected inflation rate when the risk for holding the money got increased, or when the liquidity of other assets got increased, or the effective payment system got improved? For all these cases, we know that there will causes a fall in the real money demand. Because of that, in the diagram, we will see it will relate it to a left shift of the money demand curve in the diagram. So then because of that, we know when all these shocks happened, it will result in a lower real interest rate in equilibrium. So then for the LM diagram, we know that for any given variable of the Y, holding all the other things being equal, when the R falls, it implies that the LM curve needs to shift to the right. So then what we know is that when the expected inflation rate got higher, when the risk for holding money got increased, or when the liquidity of the other asset got increased, or the effective payment system got improved, then all of them will causes the LM curve to shift to the right. So in here we complete the discussion related to the factor shifting the LM curve.